Coming out of a test and realizing my calculator was in radians. People of Reddit, what was your biggest oh shit moment? Finding a painful lump in my ballsack. Thought I had cancer for sure, but it turned out to be a tiny third testicle that had gotten irritated somehow. I went into the doc expecting to come out less a ball, instead, I have a spare now. Before I was properly diagnosed, I was walking around with a tumor blocking my spinal canal. One day I was coming home from getting lunch and I was wearing that big, platform, orthopedic flip-flops you can buy. Because haha, all the orthopedists and podiatrists I saw told me my leg pain and foot numbness were because of my flat feet, haha, thanks guys. Seriously, like 2 inches thick. Anyway, I stick my key in the door and all of a sudden realize that my left leg is missing. Like, data deleted, no longer there, nothing. I remember going, what the effing shit, as I toppled over and cracked my ankle because of the flip-flops. Thankfully the feeling in my leg came back just in time for me to feel the hideous crack and almost vomit all over my doorstep from the pain and shock. That was my biggest oh shit moment of my life. Partially because I fell and hurt myself so badly, partially because it caught me so off guard, and also mainly because I'd never felt anything like that before. It wasn't like a leg going numb when you sit on it for too long. It was like my leg wasn't there at all and never had been. Scariest moment of my life by far. When I heard my dentist say oh shit while over-tightening my dental implant. When I was accidentally shot in the thigh when I was downrange setting targets up. I am a pre-K, 3-year-old, teacher. I started panicking because I only counted 7 children following me instead of the usual 8. I thought I was going to jail and everything. I was holding the 8th child in my arms. Mornings are fun. An archer here, I once shot myself in the hand. I was tilting my bow too far to the left, the arrow slipped off and I let go of the string anyway. Luckily, I was young at the time so I was only trusted with training arrows, got a cool scar though. When I texted my wife complaining about what a nasty bitch my mother was acting like, only to realize I had texted it to my mother. I had a thyroid nodule biopsy at the end of 2017. They said if the result was benign, they would email me. 6 days later, they called me. Oh shit. Cancer-free for 2 years on Saturday though. Realizing I left food on the table when I went traveling, 5 weeks later we come back and it's filled with worms. Realizing after getting home from my first week at a new job at corporate headquarters that I left my wallet with my new company credit card, license, personal credit card, and $100 cash in the back of the seat on the airplane. I got it back but it took a month. I had to tell my new boss that I already lost the company card, which had around a $30,000 limit. Good times. When the doctor at the urgent care told my mom to quote go straight to the emergency room, you don't need to pay for this visit. Is she okay? More like am I okay? She took me there because I had appendicitis. It's more of an oh shit that happened to me. I was having a standard cardiology test where they were trying to get my heart to recreate an event that had previously happened. My heart wasn't cooperating and the doctor told the nurse to put something in my forehead to raise my heart rate in hopes of recreating the event. I immediately felt like I had just run at full effort for 10 minutes and my heart was beating so hard and so fast, and I assume out of rhythm, that I began to black out. The nurse and the doctor started yelling something that I honestly can't remember and then a crash cart was brought in and they gave me something else that brought my heart rate down. I have episodes of tachycardia and bradycardia as well as having a sinus arrhythmia and periodic atrial fibrillation. Edit. After googling the shit out of this because I honestly hadn't thought about it until today and forgot what it was called, I believe it was a tilt table test and the drug the nurse put in my forehead was isoproterenol and she either gave me too much or I had a bad reaction to it or both. Was driving south on 95 through Virginia. A car was doing over 100 and I followed it but from really far behind. A cop car was hiding in the median in the trees. He came flying out and almost sideswiped me. We were face to face for a second. I thought he might pull me over afterward but he just went after the first guy. But it was so close to us clipping each other at high speed. Biking down a short but steep hill doing 30 miles per hour to keep up with traffic. A driver about 3 cars ahead of me stops abruptly at a crosswalk. I lay onto my brakes but feel my wheels start to slip. I instantly had that sense of time slowing down to the point where I could make reasoned and considered decisions. Looking ahead, I could run into the car ahead of me, Attempt to shoot the gap between the cars and the curb but also risk hitting the pedestrian in the crosswalk, or I could go down on the grassy verge. Decide that the last option looks best for everyone, but then realize that there's a tree in my way. I managed to roll into the fall so that my shoulder and rib cage took the impact, didn't even hit my head. I ended up a little battered, especially since I jammed my pinky in the ground, but after sitting around to recover my breath I managed to ride home not too much the worse for wear. No broken bones and I only had to take one day off of work, though it was a while before my finger wasn't sore and stiff. Coming out of a test and realizing my calculator was in radians. When I thought I had sprained my ankle, then 2 days later it swelled to 3x its normal size and started turning black. I had actually broken my foot in 6 places. I sprained my ankle by stepping in a really deep hole in a field. I couldn't walk for 2 days. I didn't have insurance so I never got it checked and worked a 60 hours work week after my 2 days off because my work was short-handed and I need the money. My ankle was never the same, I could crack it on command. Fast forward 3 years, I break my leg and when they were doing the x-ray I actually cracked off both the little nubs that form the socket for my foot. How I broke my leg there was no chance it did any damage to my ankle so I just never brought it up and they assumed it all happened at the same time. There are so many. I guess the biggest that I had control over happened in 2006. My wife, then GF, had a job that gave no paid time off. We live in NY and she had stuff in storage in TN. Our plan was to hit the road and swap out who was driving. Get to TN, get a U-Haul trailer to hitch to her truck, load the truck up, and drive back, switching the driver as needed. We hope to get back to NY, Long Island to be more exact, unload, return the trailer, and have Sunday to recoup. We left Friday night as intended at about 5 p.m. At 7:30 she says my throat is a little scratchy. At midnight she was full on Ratso Rizzo at the end of Midnight Cowboy. At 2 a.m. I said my throat is a little scratchy. At 4 a.m. I was pretty sure I had a full-blown case of Captain Trips. Some point after that we entered West Virginia, and I got pulled over going downhill doing 69 and a 65. I'm pretty sure I really got pulled over for driving with NY plates in West Virginia. Sometime that morning, we arrived at U-Haul in Tennessee. We resembled something out of Night of the Living Dead, sans the whimsy. They informed us that we didn't have the right lighting harness for the trailer to plug into. We end up at a Walmart 20 miles away that installs it. We purchase some shitty cold medicine. The cold medicine makes me feel kinda high, so my corpse bride takes the wheel. Drives us back to the U-Haul where they set up the trailer for us. I don't remember much at this point, but we get to the storage, empty it somehow. We end up at a Cracker Barrel around 5 p.m., I think, where I miscalculate a fart and shart my pants. I'm sure the Cracker Barrel food didn't help. I, fortunately, brought a change of clothes because I always over-prepare. We hit the road for home. I don't remember much. I know we stopped at a Red Roof at around 1 a.m. and slept in the parking lot for an hour where we both had terrible nightmares about someone peeking into the truck windows. My guess? Someone was peeking into the truck windows. We hit a convenience store and got some cold medicine that actually worked, and made our way back to the island. Now for the oh shit moment. We're both absolutely ragged. We're on the lie, about 15 miles from her apt. I hit a pothole, hear a huge CA thunk and a dragging noise. I look in the rear view, to see the trailer dangerously swaying back and forth behind us. It seems that the U-Haul worker hadn't really tightened the bolt too well and the nut had to thread it and fallen off at some point. The pothole had knocked the trailer off the hitch, and the only thing holding it to the car was a length of doubled over the chain. Both hands on the wheel, I put on my signal, and let the vehicle slowly drift over to the shoulder across 3 lanes of traffic. I remember thinking, if I hit the brakes, this thing is going to slam into us and fly overhead, and I'm going to be the cause of a lot of deaths, including our own. I also remember thinking, I hope everyone behind me sees what's going on, and leaves me room to get the fuck off the road. I got to the shoulder, let those speed strip things slow us down, and finally got the car to a stop. I put the car in park, put on the brake, and screamed holy effing Christ we almost died. We managed to get the hitch back on and tied the chain super tight around everything, and slowly made our way home with our hazards on ready to pull over if anything seemed off. At that point, we were only like 10 miles away. We still had to unload everything, and we bought a new hitch setup so we could safely return the U-Haul. After that, we slipped into some kind of flu coma. I think Chinese food and crying may have occurred, but again, it's pretty fuzzy. The time I was taking a shower and the shower control broke off as I was adjusting the temperature, not just the handle, but the mechanism it controlled. Hot water came gushing out of the wall, and there was no shut-off valve for it. The only way to stop the water was to turn off the main valve for the whole house. Last night when the tornado sirens went off in Middle Tennessee, my house just barely missed the flight path. Homes ripped to shreds, people dead and missing, and still no power. I don't think I've ever been so scared holding on to my kids. Copy/pasted some, very descriptive dialogue from some erotica I had been writing into the group chat with all my in-laws instead of a link to a meme. When my husband was driving me to the hospital to give birth. It was such a mindfuck moment, realizing that it was the last time with just me and my husband. And the next time I would go home I would have a baby with me. I was running laps around the football, soccer, field and looked down for a second. The blur of my moving feet looked kinda cool, and so I stayed looking down watching it for a few bits. In retrospect, not a good idea. As I moved my head to look up, I caught a split-second glimpse of the goal post before running into it face first. Went to the hospital and had a black eye for a few months. I was in high school and my BF was driving me to work in a snowstorm. It was really slippery out and we were in a tiny car. Looked up, saw a full-sized truck with a trailer behind coming towards us. It made a left turn in front of us. No way we could stop in time. I said oh shit, fainted, spiderwebbed the windshield with my head, woke up in the ambulance once and then again in the hospital. Headache for almost a month. My wife was out of state at a funeral, leaving me with our 1-year-old daughter. I walked out of the kitchen on Sunday morning to find the baby drinking a bottle of infant Tylenol. I have no idea how she got it, or how she got the child-proof cap off. The child-sized dose is only 3 milliliters. Cue me calling poison control with an ER nurse on hold, frantically trying to put my shoes on. When the doctor said, "You have testicular cancer. We are removing your left testicle on Monday." It's long. It starts slow but gets better. This one goes back to the olden times when people right out of college could buy houses. Yes, those times existed. Way back, my wife and I bought our first house, a major fixer-upper. It had an old convection gas floor furnace, think a gas-fired waffle iron built into the floor, that had not been used in decades, but we thought it was worth a try to get it fired up until we could install central heat since natural gas was much cheaper than the electric space heaters that were the other option. To get to the pilot light for the furnace I had to belly slide through the crawl space. And I do mean belly slide, there was not nearly enough room to actually crawl on hands and knees, and the umpty million nails projecting through the floor from the hardwood floor overhead would remind me very painfully if I got up too high. Initial inspection, using one of those old flashlights that goes dark every time you jar it, and comes back on if you shake it just right, remember those? No? You whippersnappers have it easy, revealed a pile of spent matches inside the furnace next to the pilot, indicating people had had a lot of trouble lighting it in the past. The shut-off valve was stuck closed also but didn't look corroded. I figured if I ever got the valve to turn, it might be okay. I came back with a pair of large pliers and a propane torch. My idea was to use the pliers to give me a little more leverage to gently work the valve open, then use the torch on a low flame to light the pilot light, taking as long as I needed without holding a match that burned down to my fingers. I felt clever. I got set up, light prop to illuminate the valve, torch lit on a low flame, and was working on the valve carefully and slowly when a small movement just past the furnace caught my eye. A large bobcat had been backed into the corner by the nasty man with the light and the hissing blowtorch, and the kitty was obviously very unhappy with the situation. His eyes were fixed on my arm which was extended towards him at full stretch, working with the pliers. He was about 4 feet from my hand, and his back end was making that little wiggle that cats do just before the launch. I instinctively jerked my hand back, but in so doing I seemed to have clenched down on the pliers. Did you know that using pliers you can rip the guts out of a gas valve with very little effort? You can. A spring or something from the valve hit me sharply in the nose. My elbow hit both the flashlight and the torch on the way back. One of them went out. It was the wrong one. The propane torch went spinning off about 10 feet, still lighted with a tiny blue flame in otherwise total darkness. The wide open gas pipe blew a cooling jet of natural gas into my sweaty face. So, I was trapped on my belly, inches from nails over my back, in total darkness, with a panicked bobcat, a wide open gas line, and a live flame. You don't forget moments like that. It lasted about 6 or 7 hours, by my estimation. I felt around with my left hand and found the remains of the gas valve in the pipe, and stuck my finger in it. To my immense surprise and considerable relief, I discovered that gas pressure is way lower than water pressure. Unlike a water pipe, you can stop a gas leak with your finger. Feel around with my right hand, find the flashlight. Shake it and it turns back on. Look at a bobcat, who is magically no longer there. He has taken the opportunity to somehow teleport right past me without touching me or making a sound. He's gone. Thank you, Mr. Bobcat. Okay, look around a little more. Find the part of the gas valve I ripped out right next to the pliers. It slides in the valve body quite easily. Slight click as it seats, no leak evident. I find the little spring thing that hit me on the nose and it's some sort of retaining ring that snaps neatly on the valve to keep the parts in place. I spit on the valve and smear it around. No bubbles. Wow, it really doesn't leak. Who would have thought? I retrieve the torch, open the valve, which now turns like it's brand new, and have the furnace lit in about 2 minutes. I crawl out from under the house and wife says, "Did you know that a gigantic kitty ran out from under the house while you were working? I think you scared him." Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.